Part 39. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turnover. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 381. Chapter 381 Spices. Jiangning suddenly became interested and went over to take a look. Her eyes suddenly brightened. Yang Santi actually brought her cumin, fennel, black pepper, cinnamon, clove seeds, vanilla seeds, and coriander seeds. Do you know what this is? Jiangning excitedly held out a handful of coriander seeds. Yang Santi shook his head honestly. Those strange-looking locals only told me that they got it from elsewhere. They also said that there are many such spices in Jinggu City. I will bring back whatever I can, but I can't. I'll bring the seeds. Thank you, my dear son. Jiangning was so happy that he ordered his mother to take the spices down carefully. She also has these cumin, black pepper, etc. in her space, but most of those spices have been processed. Some can be planted and sprouted, and some cannot be used. Over the years, she has only dared to cultivate a few kinds of chili peppers, and other spices. She didn't dare to show it to anyone, for fear of not being able to explain it. Now that Yang Santi went to the outside world and got so many spices for her, she could plant them in large quantities openly. The more I think about Jiangning, the more excited I become, even more excited than looking at those Hessian jade. Seeing that she was happy, Yang Santi felt that all the hard work he had done was worth it, so he turned around and brought in another box. This box was obviously smaller and inconspicuous. When he opened the box, Jiangning's eyes widened. So much money? Did you earn it all? It was almost entirely filled with banknotes, and there was half a box of silver mixed with some gold beans. Jiangning reacted and quickly asked the servants outside the house to guard the house and not allow anyone to come in. She sat on the ground, looked at a few banknotes herself, and asked in a low voice, "How much money is there here?" Yang Santi compared the numbers. Jiangning raised his eyebrows. More than 10,000 taels. It's 130,000 taels. Jiangning was so shocked that his lips were trembling. Why are there so many? You don't do any illegal business, right? The goods brought out are worth 10,000 taels of silver. Yang Santi smiled bitterly. Auntie, where are you thinking? Even if I want to do illegal business, someone must be willing to do it. Most of the people around me are invited by you, don't you know their character? That's true. Jiangning nodded slightly, confused. Yang Santi sat down on the ground and explained in a low voice, "We earned 7 or 8,000 taels in Tongchang Mansion, and bought another 5,000 taels of local specialties. Those things were not sold until Quifeng Mansion, and the prices went up. More than 5 times, earning more than 20,000 taels. Selling wine and rice paper in Jiangnan, I earned more than 8,000 taels, and bought 20,000 taels of silk and porcelain. These things were not sold until outside the customs. They liked our porcelain and silk very much, and the 20,000 taels of goods were sold there. The price was 90,000 taels, and there were also local transactions in Quifeng Prefecture, Longqi Prefecture, Zhuzhou Prefecture, totaling up to 150,000 taels. I spent more than 20,000 taels on these things outside the customs, and I only had 130,000 taels left when I came back." Worried that Jiangning would say that he spent money indiscriminately, Yang Santi pointed to the few jade stones and said, "Mom, don't look at how much I spend. As long as I sell these few jade stones, I can still earn 7 or 10,000 taels, but I disdain it. After all, good jade is hard to find, and it was brought back from outside the customs. I will give it to the second sister-in-law later, and I can make a lot of jade stones. Their family does not have much background to begin with and needs to save up slowly." Jiangning thoughtfully said, "You always have ideas. You can arrange whatever you want. Auntie won't tell you what to do. It's just that you have to keep so much money well and don't make any noise to the outside world. Also, Businessmen outside the customs can make money like this. There are many aristocratic families who want to monopolize this business. Yang Santi's expression became more solemn. That's true. Fortunately, foreign trade has just begun and everyone is testing the waters. People like me who have made money will probably have such thoughts. Fortunately, Wang Xianming decided to do it early. No matter how well you are prepared, you must abide by the rules when you arrive in the Northwest, and you must not mess around. Violators will not be able to leave the customs for life. If they want to do something, they can only do it within the territory of Qi State and outside the Northwest. However, this possibility is not high. After all, such huge interests are there. If they really have a monopoly, they will probably be attacked by a group. Anyang is the Marquis of Guanjin, so I go out under the name of the Marquis. In addition, the people arranged by Anyang are all reliable, so there is generally no danger. Zhang Ning breathed a sigh of relief silently, and smiled happily at Yang Santi. You are now more knowledgeable than my mother, and my mother will listen to you. However, if you still want to continue doing business, our family should also cultivate a group of ourselves. The guard is. They mainly rely on agencies now, which is not a long-term solution. Yang Santi agreed very much. Auntie, I think so too. When I first started making money in Tongchang Mansion, when I went out this time, I found that some people in the caravan were interested. I was worried that they would be jealous and plot against me if I wanted to make money later. So I told everyone that those goods were from Guanginho Mansion, and the money I earned did not belong to me alone. Moreover, I asked them to contribute money to join the gang. Because I made money, everyone was jealous and they were sure that I could make them rich. Everyone contributed money, the most gave 500 taels, and the least gave 50 taels. Brother Chang Feng took 500 taels, but he said he didn't expect me to make money, as long as I didn't lose money. I knew he was helping me build momentum for my mother's sake, but I didn't let him. After suffering a loss, I gave him 7,500 taels with interest when I came back, and the one who paid the least also got 750 taels. Everyone regretted not investing more, and said that they should inform them next time I want to go out on business, and they even came with me. Haha, I will definitely not dare to use those with ulterior motives next time, but some of them are people from the agency. If I really don't use them, I won't be able to use Brother Chang Feng again, as it will easily cause trouble for him. When I came back, I had thought about these issues carefully. The best way is just like what Anyang said, our family trains its own people. As long as their deeds are in our hands, we won't worry about them having second thoughts. Although this means spending a lot of money every year to maintain these guards, it can ensure maximum safety when going out and can bring more goods. Overall, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Zhang Ning was frightened for a while after hearing this, and secretly thought that Yang Santi was clever, and then frowned. We are not short of money to buy people, but our family does not have any skilled warriors, and even if we buy strong bodyguards, there is no one can teach them skills. All said and done, their family has no foundation and is growing too fast, and the existing resources cannot keep up. Yang Santi gave her a comforting smile and said, "Don't worry, Mom, I already know who can help. I'll pay her a visit in the next few days. In that case, I'll ask you to come over and pick some people. Also, you can take the money back and keep it yourself. Mom doesn't want it? Those things will go into the public accounts. When they are processed, I will give you some points." Zhang Ning stood up in great interest, but did not ask Yang Santi who he was looking for. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 382. Chapter 382 Everyone's Worries. Yang Santi helped her up and shook his head decisively. "Auntie, I don't want the things. I have kept what I like. You can just arrange these. There is also money. You don't have to ask for all of it, but you have to take part of it, otherwise we won't be able to accept it. It's good for our family's unity. The Yang family's foundation is too weak. At this time, it is even more important for everyone to work together. If everyone has plans for themselves, how can they prosper? Zhang Ning thought for a while, patted the dust on his body, and said seriously, then I will take 30,000 taels, and you can keep the remaining 100,000 taels for yourself. Yang Santi then readily agreed. After the things were divided, Butler Zhu ordered people to carry the boxes down and put them in the warehouse for accounting, and then went to find Yang Xin without stopping. Yang Santi asked curiously, Anayang hasn't said what she was laughing at just now. Zhang Ning patted his head in annoyance, picked up the letter and handed it to him. This is the news from your eldest brother. The business of Baywillow has been stabilized, and the signboard has been put out. There is no talk of making money every day in the capital, but every day it is still possible to earn tens of thousands taels per year. Similarly, your eldest brother came back with a gift of 20,000 taels, saying it was for the public and he wanted to go with you. The other thing is that your sister-in-law is pregnant. The letter said that she was conceived in the summer. I guess she will give birth not long after the Chinese New Year. Can Anayang be unhappy? Yang Santi was happy. It's indeed a happy event. Grandma, I can use these jade stones to make some safe and auspicious jade locks for our juniors. How about it? Zhang Ning all responded. So many jade stones are enough to build a jade statue of Guanyin. After talking about family matters, Zhang Ning mentioned the reform of the imperial examination smoothly. Sizhuang and I have convinced your second brother and Fugui to study hard next year. They have worked so hard, you can't be easily compared. She knew that Yang Santi was not here, and she didn't want to force her children to do things she didn't like. However, after traveling through time for so many years, she had long regarded her children as her own and truly cared for them. When she was alive, regardless of family division, if one person is proud and the whole family benefits, others can live an easy life. But in the future after she is gone, the children will definitely have to separate their families. She doesn't want some children to be in good times and some to have unsatisfactory lives. How to plan for them has become her biggest concern now. In feudal society, the division of scholars, peasants, industrialists, and merchants has never changed, and it will most likely be the same in the future. All she can do is to urge her children to get as much fame as possible. At least they will be respected when they go out, even if they don't join the officialdom. Being slighted. Yang Santi looked a little more serious. Anayang, what do you want your son to end up with? Zhang Ning nodded carefully. You already have the reputation of being a scholar. If you can win the imperial examination, it will be great for you and our family. If you take the ordinary imperial examination, you have to wait 3 years, and if you don't have this ambition, the chance of passing the examination is too low. But it's different with partial subjects. You like business, are good at academics, and have a flexible mind. If you give it a try, you might have a chance. Facing Zhang Ning's earnest gaze, Yang Santi couldn't say any words of rejection. He had no choice but to smile twice. Mom, how about we wait until my son goes to visit Grandpa Zhong and sit down with his classmates before making a decision? Ken. With worries in mind, Yang Santi took a short break at home and then packed up a bunch of gadgets brought back from outside the customs and went to Kuzhu Academy. Zhongbohan was obviously very surprised to see him. I thought you were dazzled by the colorful world and didn't plan to come back to study. How about it? What can you gain from going out? Yang Santi generously placed a piece of Hishan jade the size of a green brick in front of Zhongbohan, and then placed 2 jars of wine on it. Grandpa Zhong, do you think my harvest is okay? Zhongbohan was so angry that he blew his beard and stared. Who told you this? It's so vulgar. This jade looks delicate and warm, with clear texture and smooth color. It is the best choice for engraving seals. Zhongbohan scoffed at it at first, but the more he looked at it, the more he became fascinated and couldn't put it down. Yang Santi curled his lips. Grandpa Zhong, look at this jade, my harvest this time will definitely be good. Zhongbohan rolled his eyes, quickly put away the jade, and glanced at the 2 jars of wine. What kind of wine is this? It's said to be wine from the western regions. Everyone there drinks it? To put it bluntly, it's wine made from fruit, but it tastes good. My grandma also wanted to make wine before, but here we only have mountain grapes, which are sour and astringent. It's completely different from other people's sweet and big grapes. The wine produced is completely different. Wine is difficult to transport, so I brought some back, not much, and gave you 2 jars. Yang Santi explained the special features of the wine in detail. Sure enough, Zhongbohan immediately put the 2 jars of wine on the shelf, handling them carefully for fear of breaking them. After placing the wine, he calmly returned to his seat and asked calmly, I'm asking you what you think about going out. I have to say it so bluntly. Yang Santi laughed twice, feeling a little guilty, and his eyes were wandering. In terms of gains, I think the band in Tongchang Mansion is quite unique. The dancers they cultivate are not only beautiful, but also versatile. They can even drink as well as the men. But the difference is in the drinks. I made some suggestions to Mrs. Ming-san, and by the way, I got a big deal for our family. Jiangnan is really prosperous. Not only is it difficult to live there, but it also costs money everywhere. A clay figurine only costs 2 cents in Kuzhou Prefecture, so I went there. Asking for 4 or 5 pennies on the side is like robbery. A meal in a restaurant costs hundreds of pennies. Poor people don't even dare to buy a steamed bun. The folk customs of Quifeng Mansion are very unique. The girls there are beautiful and can sing and dance well, but they are not as good as the foreign women outside the customs. They are not as unrestrained as they are. Zhongbohan felt quite relieved when he heard it at first, but as he went on, he realized that something was getting more and more wrong, and his face became darker and darker. So you've only been paying attention to girls since you've been out for half a year. That's not true, Yang Santi denied seriously, and Zhongbohan's face turned a little brighter before he continued, I also pay attention to men, and those men are not as handsome as me. Zhongbohan suddenly felt extremely tired and couldn't wave his hands. I heard that your mother-in-law wants your second brother and your cousin to end next year. Not only did they find people from the academy to teach them how to practice calligraphy, but they also lived in Liang Mansion for a long time. With Liang Hongchang studied construction and worked very hard. Sizhuang doesn't plan to end next year, and plans to take the exam again in 3 years. He is perseverant, talented and can endure hardships. I am very optimistic about him, but you are the only one, which is really heartbreaking. Yang Santi shrank his neck and felt guilty for a moment. Grandpa Zhong, do you also think I should end next year? Zhongbohan took a deep breath and looked at him with a sad face. Otherwise, can you give me a flower in the exam based on where you will end up in 3 years? Next year, in the first year of the imperial examination reform, the exam will not be too difficult, but I really don't have anyone in the academy who can advise you. But what should I do? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 383. Chapter 383. The second sister-in-law is so awesome. Over the years, the Zhong family has become closer to the Yang family, even closer than some relatives. He admires Zhang Ning's character and sincerely cherishes his talents. He hopes to help the Yang family cultivate a few pillars. Yang Santi felt extremely guilty when he saw that he had let the young Zhongbohan worry so much. He took a deep breath, clenched his fists and said, okay. I will end up next year, and I will definitely not let everyone down. Zhongbohan's frown relaxed a little, and he nodded with relief, but he didn't really feel relieved. When Yang Santi came out of Zhongbohan's study, it suddenly started to snow lightly. The cold wind blew up the dead leaves on the branches and rolled them to the moon gate, where they circled around a corner and fell to the mud. He stepped off a dead leaf with one foot and hurried towards Yang Santi, third brother. Yang Santi raised his eyes and immediately came forward excitedly, "Sizhuang. I'm back." Yang Sizhuang jumped on Yang Santi, completely losing the little adult appearance he used to have. Anyang sent someone to inform me that I should go home at night. My second brother Fugui, Xiaoqian, and Arya should also come over. Oh. By the way, there is also Dia's family. Yang Sizhuang said what he could think of. Everyone read it out. Yang Santi was a little surprised. Dia's family is here too. Anyang didn't tell him about this when he was at home just now. Yang Sizhuang thought of Qian, and the smile on his face faded a little. He sighed softly and told what happened to the second room. Qian protected the eldest sister from the knife, but the second uncle didn't even dare to stab himself. He was completely cold. Sister Daya's heart has been broken, and even Fugui is disappointed with the second uncle. We now have a tacit agreement not to mention those things about our hometown. The third brother should remember not to talk about it at night. Yang Santi nodded repeatedly. Don't worry, I've written it down, and tell me any other taboos, so that I won't say the wrong thing when I meet someone at night. Yang Sizhuang thought about it carefully and shook his head. There is nothing else to do, but since the third brother is back, I still need to send someone to tell Grandma and Grandma. Previously, Grandma ordered Butler Zhu to send New Year's gifts back to Rongsha village. Butler Zhu came back and said that Grandpa and Grandma have been talking about you, asking where you are and when you will come back. They have always felt ashamed of our big family because of the second uncle's matter. They don't want to accept the New Year's gift from Butler Zhu. Fortunately, Butler Zhu will. What happened was that I had to convince my grandpa and grandma to accept it. However, Butler Zhu said that the old couple seemed to be in low spirits. They seemed to have aged a lot in the past few months, and they were not as happy as before. Second uncle, you deserve to die. Yang Santi clenched his fists angrily and hit the stool. He asked angrily, what about my second uncle? Such a big thing happened, and he still lives like a normal person. No, Yang Sizhuang lowered his eyes and said, he even went to ask Butler Zhu about Daya and Erya Fugui's situation, and asked them where they lived and how they were living. Butler Zhu was fed up and gave him what Daya and Fugui had prepared. He only said that they worked hard in Fukan and it was very hard. The second uncle was not too impressed and was a little disappointed. It's pitiful to have such a father in Daya Fugui Tan. Yang Santi was very annoyed when he heard this. You can imagine how angry old man Yang and Mrs. Li were. In my opinion, I shouldn't leave Grandpa and Grandma behind in the village. If you face such an unfilial son all day long, it would be strange if you don't get angry to death. Yang Sizhuang shook his head. My second brother also persuaded me before to let my grandpa and grandma stay in the villa. Anyway, there is everything in the villa, and they can do whatever they want. But they refused, saying that even if they die in this life, they will die in this villa at the old house in Rongsha village. They were told that they had 3 uncles and 3 aunts taking care of them, so we didn't need to worry. In fact, I can understand their thoughts. They didn't give us anything when they divided our big house. Now even if we are willing to support them, they have no shame to live with us. Fortunately, the third uncle and the third aunt are all filial, unlike the second uncle. Unreliable. Third brother, I just went to see Grandpa Zhong. You also know about the imperial examination reform, right? Did Grandpa Zhong persuade you to quit? Yang Santi nodded. Although he was helpless, he smiled freely. I agree. I knew it. Yang Sizhuang looked like I had expected it. The 2 brothers looked at each other and said nothing. In the evening, the Yang family all came back to celebrate Yang Santi's return. Yang Santi is not stingy either. He has made so much money this time and is very generous in spending everything he wants. Although Liang Xiaoqian is a scholar, what he likes most are some gadgets. Yang Santi gave him a tribal musical instrument brought back from the border. He held a dap and asked curiously, how to play this thing. Yang Santi had just seen it but didn't understand it. He told him the theoretical knowledge he knew. Liang Xiaoqian fiddled with it twice but couldn't figure it out. When the thing was passed into Sun Yan's hands, she knocked the dap correctly in no time. Yang Santi was very surprised. Second sister-in-law. You are so powerful. That's how this thing is used. Sun Yan smiled sheepishly, it's just a coincidence, but I can't do anything else. Zhang Ning looked at Sun Yan thoughtfully, and took the opportunity to ask Butler Zhu to take out the jade stones and hand them to her. Santi brought them back from outside the customs. My mother-in-law knows nothing about these things, but I still know the principle of jade nourishing people. You are good at making jewelry, how about I leave it to you to arrange it? So many, Sun Yan's eyes widened in shock. Yang Santi explained, the western regions are rich in jade. To them, these jade stones may be just ordinary stones in streams. Some people specially seek them out for trading because they like them. It is very cheap to buy and sell them in Jinggu City. If there are not too many things, they cannot bring them with them when I come back. I want to get a few more boxes. Sun Yan nodded repeatedly, that's true. Since Auntie trusts me, I will definitely make good use of it. It's great to make jade bracelets, jade hairpins, jade fingers, jade pendants, jade rings, jade bracelets, and jade medals. I can also make some gold inlaid jade-headed noodles. The more he talked about it, the happier she became, and she even couldn't wait to do it. Auntie, there are too many jade stones. Can I use some scraps to make gold inlaid jade noodles and sell them in the shop? Zhang Ning smiled, what's the matter? Since I said I'll leave it to you, you can do whatever you want. Sun Yan nodded solemnly, my daughter-in-law will not take advantage of my third uncle. I will give you as much money as you need for the materials. Yang Santi quickly refused. It was only after some refusal that the matter was revealed. The next step was to distribute things to others. Even the youngest Yang Wei was assigned a Ping'an jade lock. The next day, Yang Santi got up early to wash up, took some things with him, ordered Yuan Bao to drive the car, and went out alone. Butler Zhu reported the situation to Zhang Ning. In the past, the third young master always brought a coachman and guards with him when he went out. Today, it's strange that he asked Yuan Bao to drive the carriage. Zhang Ning thought for a while, smiled and shook his head, let him go. Now there is an additional penalty for building the city wall in Fukan. The folk customs have suddenly become much more upright and the world is peaceful. No one dares to do evil or evil. Even those shrews don't dare to make unscrupulous arguments like before. They are afraid that if they accidentally cause trouble in the yamen, they will be arrested. The prefect caught the pigtails and made them do hard work. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 384. Chapter 384 Yang Santi's Connections. Although it is a bit unorthodox, this method is really effective. Yang Santi's carriage went all the way to Tingyu Alley in the north of the city. Ordinary people lived here. Nowadays, everyone's houses all look the same. No one knows whether the person living next door is a pauper or a wealthy squire. The carriage stopped at the entrance of the alley. Yang Santi came down with his things and told Tong Yuan Bao, you can guard the carriage here. There is no need to follow. After giving the explanation, he walked straight into the alley and knocked on an ordinary house a few times regularly. Soon the door opened, revealing a familiar face. Yang Santi hurried in and quickly closed the courtyard door. Uncle Han, I need help. Yang Han couldn't help but shake his head when he saw his fuss. We'll talk about it in the house first. Yang Santi hurriedly put the things on the table and said flatteringly, I went to the border outside the customs. I asked about all the things you asked me to ask about. I recorded them all in this letter. Please take a look. Yang Han received the letter and did not open it on the spot. Instead, he poured a glass of water for Yang Santi. Why did you find it when you just came back? He thought this guy would have to wait until the next year to come. Yang Santi was helpless. Don't mention it. After the reform of the imperial examination, Anyang and Grandpa Zhong want me to end next year. I know they are dedicated to me and can't be ignorant, so I have promised them to calm down and study hard next year, give it a try in the provincial examination. But I will definitely not give up on Hongshang. I just went out for a trip and found that I had too few people to use. This time my mother-in-law asked Yaxing to bring many people over. I decided to buy 90 train a guard well, and you know my family's situation, but no one can train a guard, so Uncle Han. Yang Santi tugged on Yang Han's sleeve coquettishly. Yang Han's brows were almost knitted together, and he suppressed his fists from raising. So you want me to help you find someone with strong skills to train the guards? Yang Santi nodded firmly, yes, that's what it means. Yang Han looked at the scarred man who came into the house carrying food. Nong Liang, how about you help me for a while? The man named Nong Liang is about 40 years old. The scars on his face are very ferocious. He usually doesn't smile and looks fierce. Children in the alley will be frightened and cry when they see him. This house belongs to him. Yang Santi only knew that Nong Liang was Yang Han's friend, but didn't know that he knew martial arts, so he was very surprised. Yang Han lowered his eyes and explained calmly, Nong Liang has been on the battlefield like me, and his skills are better than mine. The wounds on his face were from the battle with the commander-in-chief outside the customs, Quintani. In the end, he killed Quintani. The head was chopped off, which was the first achievement. So awesome, Yang Santi looked at Nong Liang and his eyes instantly became extremely respectful. Nong Liang pursed his lips, not surprised, and said slowly, these are all old things, there is nothing to say, but if you want me to take action, the cost will be high. You can just say it. Yang Santi sat upright, not daring to show any signs of neglect. Nong Liang twitched the corners of his lips and said, 100 taels a month. No problem. Afraid that Nong Liang would regret it, Yang Santi agreed very quickly. Nong Liang got up and went back to the house to pack his things. As soon as he left, Yang Santi immediately lowered his voice and asked, Uncle Han, Uncle Nong made his first contribution by beheading the enemy commander. Why didn't the imperial court give him an official position? Such a military achievement is reasonable. It is said that he can be made a 4th-grade military general. Yang Han sighed, don't you think so? He was promoted to deputy general at that time, and he was very high-spirited and wanted to continue his promotion. Unfortunately, he had no background. He was too prominent and made several generals dissatisfied. He was targeted and wore small shoes. He could tolerate these things, but he couldn't stand being ordered off the battlefield for no reason. In anger, he gave up his job. In that battle, the enemy army came for revenge. Our army suffered heavy losses. He became the target of public criticism. He resigned and left in frustration. This is unreasonable. Yang Santi was furious when he heard this. With such a small-minded general, no wonder they will lose the battle. When two armies are fighting, life and death are determined by heaven. How can you be angry with those who have made military achievements afterwards? It's shameful. Yang Han looked at the frost and snow in the courtyard with a faint look, and continued, he left the military camp and returned to his hometown. Because the scar on his face was really scary and he didn't save much money, he couldn't marry a wife at all. He also open-minded, he lives alone. He mainly makes a living by hunting in the mountains and catching fish in the sea. Occasionally, he will take on some manual labor and earn some money, which is enough for him to live comfortably alone. Of course, now that I am getting older, I always have to think about the future. Don't blame him for being a lion. Training guards is not an easy task, let alone 100. Since he has taken over this matter, he will definitely not let you down. Yang Santi knew about Nong Liang's past and had only respect for him, so how could he care about this little money? Seeing the sincerity on his face, Yang Han smiled a little more, as long as you understand. Yang Santi bowed solemnly, Uncle Han, don't worry, there is one more thing. Thanks to Uncle Han for reminding me earlier, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to pass the college examination with such luck. His knowledge was not as solid as that of Yang Sizhuang. The probability of passing the college examination was extremely low. A few days before the examination, Yang Han suddenly came to him and asked him for help. At the same time, he also said many inexplicable words to him and asked him to study hard. Remember? At that time, he had no idea what kind of medicine Yang Han was selling in his gourd. Because of Yang Ziahua, he kept everything Yang Han said in mind. When the examination paper of the hospital was handed out, he suddenly realized it. Although he was puzzled by this matter, he was more grateful. In order to repay Yang Han for his help, he couldn't wait to go out to do business after the examination results were released. Yang Han pretended to be dumbfounded and said, "What did I say? I didn't say anything. It's your ability that makes you pass the exam." "Well, let's not mention these things for now. You can go first. Tomorrow Nong Liang will go to the East Lishan Villa is looking for you." Yes, Yang Santi achieved his goal and respectfully left the house. As soon as he left, Yang Han immediately opened the letter and read it, frowning tightly. Nong Liang entered the house and asked, "What's going on?" Yang Han shook his head. The letter said that Princess Wei has been found, and that she will bring the Suan Wuading to Beijing for marriage in the spring of next year. Nong Liang's face was a bit ugly. There is no way the Wei tribe has a Suan Wu cauldron. Yang Han put the letter away. No matter whether there is an emperor or not, he will never let go of any opportunity to find the Suan Wu cauldron. If it is finally discovered that the cauldron is fake, there will be no loss to the Wei tribe. What I am worried about is that their purpose in coming to Beijing is impure. There is another conspiracy. Nong Liang pursed his lips and said, "We are in Kuzhu Prefecture and are beyond our reach. We can only send letters to the people over there to make them more alert." The two of them were worried about this letter, but Yang Santi went back in the carriage in a relaxed manner. It just so happened that Butler Zhu bought all 100 guards. With so many people, the villa was simply not enough to house them. They had to prepare an additional courtyard for them. It was also the Chinese New Year and they were busy everywhere. Butler Zhu almost cried. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 385. Chapter 385 Passing the Imperial Examination. Fortunately, there are still many vacant houses in the village that Zhang Ning bought for Yang Xiaoa, so these people can be temporarily accommodated there. The next day, Nong Liang first went to Dongli Villa to find Yang Santi, met with Zhang Ning, and then went to Zhuangzi next door. Zhang Ning only glanced at Nong Liang and knew that this person was unusual. When he asked Yang Santi, he hesitated and said, "Auntie, Uncle Nong has been on the battlefield before and is very skilled. He has been making a living by hunting and fishing these years. No effort was wasted, this is the best candidate I can find." Zhang Ning joked, "Then you might as well hire a farmer to lead the team. With his face and aura, no ghost will dare to get close to him." The speaker was unintentional, but the listener was interested. Yang Santi immediately ran to Nong Liang to discuss the matter. Nong Liang didn't refuse, he just said, "Let's talk about it then." Yang Santi still has to take the provincial examination next year, so he is not in a hurry, so he will not worry about it anymore. After the lively spring festival, everything returned to normal business. In early February, the first county examination was held after the reform of the imperial examination system. The city was busier than ever. Some accounting clerks in their 40s, 50s, and 60s even signed up. In the streets and alleys, everyone was unified. Everyone is discussing this matter. Zhang Ning called Yang Erden and Yang Fuegui over in advance to ask, "What do you say, sir? Are you sure?" The two of them bowed respectfully. "Auntie, sir, my handwriting is fine," and Uncle Yang also said that we can pass the county exam. Compared to Zhang Ning's panic, Yang Erden seemed much calmer. Yang Fuegui was a little embarrassed. "Uncle, my handwriting is just like that. I can barely read it. I promise to write it well." "Okay, okay. Just take the exam carefully and be careful, and don't think too much about it." Zhang Ning forced herself to calm down, but her blue fingers twisted together betrayed her inner feelings. Butler Zhu came over and reported, "Madam, everything is ready and has been carefully checked. You can send the two young masters out." Yang Erden walked out first, and Yang Fuegui immediately followed. Zhang Ning was worried and said to her grandma, "Do you think they can do it?" Mommy Yu covered her mouth and snickered, "Madam, I didn't see you so panicked when the third and fourth sons came off the stage. Why did a small county examination make you so out of control?" Zhang Ning slowly closed his eyes. "You don't understand. Her four sons, the eldest son Chenju, did not need to worry about her at all. The third and fourth sons were the least good and had the reputation of being a scholar. Only the second son was still a white boy, and he did not have the ability to make money. He was still simple and honest, which impressed her the most." Worried. Yang Erden and Yang Fuegui sitting in the carriage were looking forward to it but also anxious. They had worked hard for several months and did not know what the final result would be. One county test lasted 3 days, and it took several more days to go back and forth to Ping'an County. In the past few days, Zhang Ning had never had a good rest and kept counting the days with his eyes open and closed. He finally hoped that the two children would return safely after taking the exam, and made inquiries about the situation. The two of them had no idea about the content of the exam, but they talked about the grand occasion of the exam with great enthusiasm. Zhang Ning's face turned pale, and he forced a smile to appease them. When he returned, he sighed alone and chattered with his grandma, "It seems that I am greedy." The two children looked like they were good at taking exams. How could she force them? She spent 2 days mentally building herself up before she felt better. A few days later, the county examination results were released. Although Zhang Ning had no hope, he still wanted to know the results. Butler Zhu rushed into the big house like a wind with the county examination results, laughing all the way, very unrestrained. Madam, I got it. I got it. The second, rich and noble young masters are all on the list." A clang sound. Zhang Ning accidentally knocked over the teacup on the table and stood up suddenly with a look of disbelief on his face. "Are they really all on the list?" "Madam. It's absolutely true. Look at the list that the villain asked someone to copy back." Butler Zhu unfolded the list with great interest. Zhang Ning's vision was blurry, and his fingers trembled as he crossed the names on the paper one by one. He finally found the name of Yang Changlin and Yang Fuegui, and cried with joy, "Good! Good! Excellent! Everyone will give you a month's money. Hurry to the Liangjia Jiangjia Xinghua village to report the good news." "Where is Erden?" Butler Zhu wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and replied respectfully, "Madam, the second young master and the rich young master went back to work in the brick kiln after the county examination. I will send someone to look for them." Butler Zhu moved very quickly. Yang Erden and Yang Fuegui had just calmed down when they came back. Zhang Ning first congratulated the two of them and then said, "You guys pack up now. I will take you to go to the Liang family in person to announce the good news. Also, you have to stay in the Liang family and keep up the good work for the imperial examination in 2 months. Yes, the two of them were confident now, unlike when they were nervous during the county exam. Yang Dia came over after hearing the news, and knelt down to Zhang Ning on the spot. Auntie, Dia doesn't know how to thank you. From now on, even if you ask me to go up mountains of swords and seas of fire, I will definitely go. Zhang Ning glanced at her angrily. Get up and speak. What do I want you to do? Go up to the mountain of knives and go down to the sea of fire. It's up to you to live a good life by yourself. Don't make any noise in the village for the time being. We'll talk about it later. Yang Dia agreed. She is now Zhang Ning and she will never go east if Zhang Ning asks her to go west. Zhang Ning took the two children to the Liang family with a thank you gift. Yuan was happy and surprised when she learned that both of them had passed the county examination. She fawningly welcomed Zhang Ning into the house and ordered someone to call Liang Hongchang back. Zhang Ning said a lot of words of gratitude and left the two children to continue studying. Yuan didn't dare to neglect and went to make arrangements in person. After Zhang Ning left, she went to see the thank you gift brought by the Yang family, and found that there were 2 jars of Western region wine, a jade seal, a set of jade heads, and the 4 treasures of the study. She was pleasantly surprised. Yo! This set of jade heads has a face value that's a lot of money. The woman next to me leaned over and complimented enviously, Madam, this set of hair and face is exquisitely made and the jade water quality is excellent. It is indeed rare. It is indeed from the Marquis of Guang'an, and it is extraordinary. Look at this color, it is specially given to you. It's ready. I think so too. Yuan picked up a jade bracelet and put it on her hand. She looked at it over and over again, showing no secret of her affection. Although the Liang family has a fairly good financial background, the money Liang Hongchang earns in a year is not enough to support the family. She also has to look at the future of Zhuangzi's shop. She cannot just go to the street to buy these jewelry, let alone such expensive ones. Jade stone surface. However, her natal family's wealth was not as good as that of the Liang family, and the dowry they received when she got married was not much. They only had 1 set of gilt hair and 1 set of sterling silver hair. In the past few years, she has worn only these 2 sets of hair and some scattered hairpins when going out to socialize. This jade stone cover directly filled up her makeup. After wearing it when she went out, she felt that her waist straightened a lot. This thank you gift was simply sent to her heart. Liang Hongchang was so fond of the jade seal that he even kept it in a brocade box in his study so that no one could see it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 386. Chapter 386 How to Start the Exam in June. Because the things Zhang Ning gave were so valuable, he became more and more concerned about the studies of his 2 children. He even took them to the government office to listen to several discussions and let them take notes. It will be of great benefit to the 2 of them to go out and listen to opinions from all sides. At the beginning of April, the government examination began. This time they were at Fukan Gongyuan. On the first day of the exam, in addition to Zhang Ning, Liang Hongchang and Liang Shaoqian also came to see them off in person, repeatedly reminding them. Seeing that Liang Hongchang attached so much importance to them, Zhang Ning couldn't help at all, so he simply left Butler Zhu and a group of servants to serve the 2 of them, and went back first. After the government examination, the result was the same as what Liang Hongchang said. The 2 children still passed. Yang Erden ranked better. Among the top 10, Yang Fugui was in the middle. 9 times out of 10, he lost in words, but this thing cannot be achieved overnight. Change is the only way to go. The additional college examination will be held in 2 months. By that time, summer has already begun in Kuzhou Prefecture. Candidates may not be able to bear the weather like autumn in previous years. June weather can kill candidates. Ji Wei had a headache. He called everyone in the government office to discuss the matter, but no one could give good suggestions. He had no choice but to go to Zhongbohan. What do you think we should do? At the end of last autumn's examination, 39 people fell. Fortunately, no one was killed, but this time the June examination is hard to say. Zhongbohan frowned and pondered for a long time before slowly saying, if it doesn't work, maybe it would be better to answer at night and rest during the day. Impossible. It's okay if there is wind in the summer night. If there is no wind, it will be stuffy and hot, and there will be snakes, insects, rats and ants. It's strange that the candidates can calmly answer the questions, Ji Wei retorted. Everyone has been there, and they have a clear mind about the situation in the imperial examination. There are many snakes and insects in Kuzhou Prefecture, and at that time, he was really big-headed. Zhongbohan couldn't think of a good way, so he suggested, go to the Marquis to discuss it. The Marquis must be more concerned about the fate of the 2 young masters than others. Ji Wei thought for a while and could only find Dongli Villa. After Zhang Ning learned of his intention to come, his reaction was similar to Zhongbohan's. Sir Ji, the exam time is arranged by the imperial court, so they don't have any measures to deal with it. Ji Wei's face became hot when he was asked, and he was embarrassed. Seeing him like that, Zhang Ning was speechless. I remember that the government didn't have much money to build the city wall, right? Is there any progress at the Dragon King Temple? Ji Wei looked solemn and nodded. It is true that the treasury does not have much money, but it can still maintain the operation of Kuzhou Mansion without running into a deficit. The Dragon King Temple is still the same as before, with water from the stream pouring in and the collapsed soil filling it up, making the soil in that area soft and extremely moist, like a swamp. A pole could not even reach the bottom, making it impossible to start construction. The Minister of Industry and the Minister of Industry Zhou took people to see it, but they were also at a loss. They said that the best way was to wait until all the underground water was drained before taking action. This would probably not be possible in 3 to 5 years, and no one could do it. Know what's going on underground. If the water is locked inside and cannot be evaporated or drained away, wouldn't we just wait forever? Zhang Ning also felt that this idea was a bit unreliable, more like putting it out there. She rubbed her brows, with a hint of helplessness in her eyes. Forget it, I don't understand these things, so I really can't give you any good advice, but the problem of the June hospital exam must be solved. There is nothing we can do about the weather. We can only deal with it. Start with existing conditions and improve their exam environment as much as possible. The first way is to change the examination center, but this method is a bit difficult. With so many candidates, there is no better place to place them except Gongyuan. The second method is to renovate the tribute courtyard to make the environment as shady as possible. You can cover the roof of the tribute courtyard by building a straw shed, or you can transplant some green potted plants to cover it, which will be more or less effective. The third method is to distribute heat-relieving drinks to candidates, such as mint tea, ice water, etc. However, there is a problem with this method. If someone has gastrointestinal discomfort, it is very likely to collapse, which is counterproductive. The fourth method is also the most luxurious: put an ice basin. Ji Wei gasped in shock, Master Ho. You really dare to think? Except for the nobles in the palace and some royal relatives and noble families, the ice basin can't be used by ordinary people. And it's something that ordinary people can't afford. There are so many candidates in Gongyuan, how many ice basins are needed to provide them? He only thought that Zhang Ning was whimsical. After thinking for a long time, he said, I think the way to build a straw shed is good. Zhang Ning smiled meaningfully, but this method requires adults to protect themselves from water leakage. If a candidate performs abnormally in the examination room and gets mad and throws the candle into the straw shed, it will be no small matter to burn it. Ji Wei's face turned pale. He remembered Zhang Ning's words firmly and talked about the dangers of snakes, insects, rats and ants. Zhang Ning made some suggestions, and Ji Wei listened carefully to them all. Then he ordered people to extensively renovate the Gongyuan, and finally completed it before June. The renovated Gongyuan has rows of thatched roofs on the 10-foot-high roof, which can block the sun from all aspects and provide ventilation. The hot summer wind blows in without feeling hot. Ji Wei was very satisfied with the effect. What made him even more happy was that the anthelmintic medicine provided by Zhang Ning was effective. He ordered people to spray pesticides 10 days before the trial began. In just 3 days, the patrolling soldiers caught 7 or 8 snakes, carried several nests of rats, and even trampled to death several scorpions and centipedes. Today's Gongyuan is not 100% safe, but pests have been reduced to a minimum, and the candidates who come here are not unprepared. Everyone has more or less ways to deal with snakes, insects, rats, and ants, so there is nothing to worry about. This is the second time Yang Erden and Yang Fuegui have come to this Gongyuan, and they are familiar with each other. They know that this time they not only compete for talent, but also for perseverance and the ability to endure hardships and stand hard work. They stayed in the brick kiln all year round, and the environment was much more miserable than that of Gongyuan. This hardship was nothing to them. After several exams, all the candidates were exuding an unpleasant stench of sweat, and they avoided each other. Yang Erden and Yang Fuegui took it easy. They came out and got on the carriage and talked about the exam situation energetically, as if they couldn't smell anything. It's like the smell on your body. Rubble couldn't bear it anymore and reminded him, "Sir, let's go back and wash up first, okay?" Everyone nodded wildly in agreement. Yang Erden and Yang Fuegui looked at each other, confused. "Do I stink?" "Not bad," Yang Fuegui replied seriously. Rubble is almost crying. It's over, it's over." The 2 young masters have been taking the exam for a few days, and their noses are broken. The carriage passed by a creek on the way back to Dongli Villa. Yang Erden was heartbroken and said to Yang Fuegui, "Let's go. Let's go and have a good wash in the creek. Let's see how they still dislike us for being smelly." Second young master, the rubble couldn't stop them. They watched the 2 of them jump into the stream and swim. All the small fish that were still nearby were scared away by them. A few of them had the courage to approach them, and after a while, their belly turned white. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 387. Chapter 387. The background of the 3rd wife of Ming Dynasty. Yang Erden scratched his head hard. Is it really that smelly? Yang Fuegui poked the 2 upturned fish and found that they were not dead yet. Most likely they had fainted. He laughed endlessly for a while. Rubble resignedly took out the spare shower gel from the secret compartment of the carriage and sent it to them. They took off their clothes and rubbed each other in the stream, removing a lot of dirt and feeling comfortable. They put on the clean clothes that Zhang Ning asked his servants to bring out for them. The 2 of them came ashore refreshed, looked at each other while sitting on the carriage, and left. Zhang Ning knew that the 2 of them were going crazy outside, so he also started to enjoy themselves. When he saw that they were all washed up, he stopped caring about them. The results of the hospital examination came out. Yang Erden ranked first and Yang Fuegui ranked last. They all passed. The news of 2 more talented people coming out of the Guang'an Marquis mansion spread like the wind. The Zhang family, the Liang family, the Fang family, the Su family, etc. all sent people to send congratulatory gifts, and they all wanted to see the true faces of the 2 scholars. But Yang Erden and Yang Fuegui packed up their things early and went to the Liang family to express their gratitude before continuing to study hard. Liang Xiaoqian looked at the two of them and sighed with emotion, this autumn, we will end up together. He studied hard for more than 10 years and was only a scholar. The two brothers-in-law in front of him only studied hard for less than a year and reached his height. It is really infuriating that people are more powerful than others. Yang Erden and Yang Fugui didn't hear what he meant at all, and even nodded seriously, brother-in-law, don't worry. We will definitely not let everyone down. The smile on Liang Xiaoqian's face can hardly be maintained. What if two brothers-in-law in Chiu pass by this time? No, it's three brothers-in-law. If they all passed but he didn't, he would be too embarrassed to go to Yu's house. Thinking of this, he suddenly became anxious and asked in a panic, what about the 3 irons? Isn't he going to end too? Why haven't I seen him go to the academy recently? Yang Erden shook his head, the main focus of the 3 irons is magic. He said that there is no particularly good teacher in this field in the academy. He can handle ordinary imperial examination questions, but he can't teach advanced ones. My mother-in-law asked someone to inquire about it, but cause who it is true that there is no one with great magic skills in Tongchang Mansion, but there is one in Tongchang Mansion. When he went to Tongchang Mansion, he had to find his own way. My mother-in-law said that the 3 irons are not taking the imperial examination. With his connections, he will be good no matter what in the future. Liang Xiaoqian agreed very much, my mother-in-law is right. Even though Santi is younger than me, his worldliness has surpassed me. He is also flexible. Even the dean said he has a bright future. I used to think that he is better than me in the academy. There are many people who are more powerful than him. The 4 villages alone are more knowledgeable than him. I don't agree with the dean's statement. Later I found out that I am narrow-minded. In life, you can't just look at knowledge. Forget it, let's not talk about it anymore, let's go to school quickly. Chiu Wei can't do it if he doesn't work hard. The 3 of them entered Liang Hongchang's study together. At the end of August, Yang Santi, who had been studying in Tongchang Mansion, finally came back, and with him was Kui, the 3rd wife of Ming Dynasty. Zhang Ning personally hosted the guests. Mr. Kui praised Yang Santi very much, the 3rd young master is indeed a born businessman. He has such a lively mind that I am really willing to be the loser. Zhang Ning understood it at first, but became more and more confused later on. 3rd Madam, do you also know the gentleman from my triathlon family? Ms. Kui was stunned for a moment, covered her mouth and snickered, then stood up and blessed Zhang Ning with the gift, I am none other than Mr. Shushu from Santi. 3rd Madam, Zhang Ning was so shocked that she even forgot how to react. Ms. Kui smiled coquettishly, the world is harsh on women, so I have kept a low profile since I joined the Ming family. I remember when I was a married woman, my father's friend came to visit and praised me in front of my father. It's a pity that I am a woman, and this is also my father's biggest regret in his life. Who is your father? Kui Shi smiled and lowered her eyes, my father is Kui Guang, Taishi Ling, and my elder brother is Kui Ba Kane, a doctor of arithmetic in Imperial College. This erudite family background. Zhang Ning was so shocked that his mouth went dry and he was speechless for a long time, leaving only deep respect. Learning about Ms. Kui's background, Zhang Ning treated her as an honored guest, ordered someone to clean up a clean yard for Ms. Kui to stay, and then hurriedly went to see Yang Santi. As soon as she entered the door, she stamped her feet with excitement, good son. You can do it. You have found such a powerful gentleman. How did you convince Mrs. Mingson to accept you as a student? Gaogong's big households attach great importance to men and women. Even if Yang Sanlin and Kui are different, they have to avoid taboos. Yang Santi chuckled, Auntie, have you forgotten Mrs. Mingson's music studio? Although the Ming family is supported by the Shunda Township Lord, it is only superficial glory. In fact, the Ming family has long since declined, leaving an empty shell. Son, Thanks to Mrs. Mingsen's intervention to turn the tide, the Ming family was brought back to life. Now she is the head of the Ming family, who dares to take care of her. Besides, Mrs. Mingsen not only teaches me, but also other juniors of the Ming family. Everyone is studying together, so there is nothing to avoid. However, those juniors of the Ming family are not very good. They are either playboys or have no ambition to fight, or they just follow the old pedants. Although he respects the third lady, he looks down on the woman from the bottom of his heart. He doesn't really listen to her lectures at all and learns in a messy manner. Mrs. Mingsen just found a reason to restrain them. If I Kaiwei pass the exam, she will be able to feel proud, and she will not follow the truth. If Mrs. Kui only taught him and not the other Ming family members, even if he did pass the exam, someone from the Ming family would be gossiping behind her back, saying that her elbows were turned outward. Let no one find fault. Zhang Ning nodded, admiring Ms. Kui more and more, and couldn't help but ask, it stands to reason that the third lady is so strong, how could she marry the declining Ming family? Yang Santi pondered, it seems that the marriage was between the fingertips. The specific son is not clear, but there was a saying in the capital back then, I have my own abilities, and I can live comfortably even if I have nothing. That's what Mrs. Mingsen said. Zhang Ning became more and more curious about Kui. In the next few days, when she had free time, she wanted to talk to Mrs. Kui, but she found that this woman was focused on Yang Santi. Seeing Tian'er instilling knowledge into Yang Santi, her attitude was even better than that of her mother. Heart. Zhang Ning was not only grateful, but also grateful and cooked the food himself. Mrs. Kui only had one breakfast made by Zhang Ning and she couldn't forget it. She kept praising her. She even asked about the cook of Guang'an Marquis Mansion and learned that Zhang Ning made it. She admired Zhang Ning even more and said, I am lucky enough to be in the palace. I have had several palace banquets, but the skills of those royal chefs are not even 1/10 as good as the Marquis. The Marquis is really a role model for women. Where is it? The third lady is very knowledgeable and talented. She knows astronomy and geography. She is virtuous and intelligent. She is a model for women. Zhang Ning's good words came out as if they were free of money. The two women complemented each other, and their relationship suddenly became much closer. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 388. Chapter 388, Unlucky. On the autumn day, the Yang family dispatched several carriages to meet the Liang family and watched them enter the Gongyuan. Mrs. Mingsen looked at the thatched hut above the Gongyuan and was dumbfounded. How much effort did it take to build it? Will it not collapse? Zhang Ningwaner explained, more than 1,000 bamboo poles are built to support the entire Gongyuan. Even if the sea wind blows, it will not collapse, let alone this is a city. Who came up with it? Mrs. Mingsen admired and marveled. Zhang Ning was embarrassed to raise his head. I just gave Mr. G a few suggestions, and the rest was done by Mr. G's people. 9 times out of 10, it was Mr. Liang's idea. Mrs. Mingsen felt more and more sympathy for Zhang Ning. The two of them had a long discussion in the thatched hut outside the Gongyuan. They did not return to Zhuangzi until the sun was shining and the heat hit them. There were 3 consecutive games in Kaiwei, and each time he had to stay inside for 3 days. Zhang Ning was very worried about this kind of weather. In the examination room. Although everyone is studying in different directions, the distance is not too far. Yang Santi's good luck may have been tried out in the hospital, but this time he got the toilet number. On a hot day, wouldn't this be life-threatening? His face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, but there was nothing he could do about it. Fortunately, his mother-in-law had prepared many ways for them to ward off the heat and insects. One of them is flowers and leaves used for cooling. Wrap these flowers and leaves in gauze, tie the rope tightly, and hang it with your ears. The gauze bag is just under the nose and mouth. Whether you breathe or exhale, there is only a refreshing feeling. The scent of flowers and plants can keep the smell to a minimum even if someone is paying homage next door. You can put 2 pieces of dough in your ears to block out the sound from next door, and you can answer your questions without any distractions. Lay out the paper, write your own information, and go through the questions. Yang Santi discovered that the title of the first question was "Try to use Tianyuan technique to find the root of one element of the equation." If so, what is the method? This question made him frown. In the past, in the academy, he mainly studied the 4 books and 5 classics. He only taught superficial knowledge in magic and mathematics, and put it in the normal imperial examination. This question should ask him to elaborate on Tianyuan Shu, or give him a formula to guide him. Instead of giving a complicated calculation like this question, let him answer it from beginning to end. This kind of question is something that a gentleman who knows arithmetic in the academy would have to think about for a long time when he sees it, and he may not be able to answer it correctly. Fortunately, Mrs. Mingson has told him a similar question in advance, so this question is not difficult for him. Yang Santi took a deep breath, picked up his pen and answered, "Tianyuan Shu, an ancient mathematician, can find the root of a cubic equation of one variable. The method is not simple. Now let's take the equation in question as an example to briefly explain its key points." It took half an hour to finish writing this question. He checked it carefully and breathed a sigh of relief when he found that there was no problem with the result. He continued to look at the second question, the Dian seeks one. The reason is subtle. The numbers 2 and 4 are 8, 16, and 32 in ascending order to understand their rationale. Yang Santi read it carefully and was very happy. The second question was obviously easier than the first question. It seemed that the first question was to show off the examines like them, and it was also a test of the candidate's mentality. If they got stuck on the first question, their mentality would collapse later. It will be difficult to obtain high scores. After he understood the examiner's thoughts, he immediately calmed down, went through the question again, and answered, 2 is a number, and the power of 2 is also, 4 is a number, and the power of 4 is also, 8 is a number, and the power of 8 is also the base of 2. Increasing its exponent is the law of the sequence, and the Dian seeks unity, which comes from this. The third question tests complex operations. There are 10 questions in total, requiring the use of various calculation methods. Even the senior accounting clerk shook his head after reading it. 10 questions can last a day or 2. The fourth question is about the calculation of the area and perimeter of some figures. It is not difficult, but a lot of data is hidden in the question. For example, the question says Carpenter Sue in the east of the city made a door. The man could not make it as well as the woman, and the fat man had a hard time making it as thin as the thin man. At first glance, it seems that the door is short and narrow, but from this sentence we can roughly estimate the length and width of the door, because the question is not about specific numbers, but analysis. There are many possibilities. It took me a long time to answer this question. Not excessive. The first exam only had these questions, but it took them 3 days. This shows that the person behind the questions is not simple. Yang Santi shook his head and quickly focused on the topic. In a blink of an eye, the vision in the room became much darker. He raised his head in a daze, but could not see the sky and could not tell the time. Someone had already lit candles around him. He looked at his answer sheet and saw that he was almost halfway through it. At this rate, he could finish it in half a day the day after tomorrow. There was no need to be exhausted while doing the questions, so he stopped and carefully read the paper and the 4 treasures of the study. Keep it. Although there was a gauze bag hanging under his nose and dough stuffed in his ears, he could still hear some faint sounds. Coupled with the sultry summer heat, he opened the mint water he brought in with some irritability and drank a few sips. Suppressing the heat in my heart, I quickly closed my eyes while my body and mind were cool, and fell into a deep sleep. When he woke up again, the examination room was still dark. He didn't know what time it was, but the surroundings were obviously much cooler. He was full of sleep and felt refreshed. He quickly got up and patted his face with water. After he was completely dry, he carefully removed his own clothes. Take out the paper and pen and ink, light the candle, and continue to answer. Perhaps because he was in good spirits, he knew how to write those complex calculations as soon as he picked up the pen. When the candle burned out and the sky was bright, he was also hungry. The reward was that he completed 3 complex calculations with extremely high efficiency. This result made him very satisfied, so he stopped, and while no one was paying attention next door, he quickly took out his own dry food, ate a few bites, barely filled his 5 internal organs, and then continued to answer the questions. On this day, he managed to answer all 10 calculation questions before dark. His mind was also dizzy and he couldn't move, so he quickly stopped to rest. On the 3rd day, he was woken up by the sound of Qigong next door. He had slept well, but he was not in a good mood. Fortunately, there was only one last question left today, so he had time to linger. When he was picking up his pen to answer, those messy thoughts were gradually forgotten by him, and all he could think about was the question. By the time he finished analyzing and writing the last question, it was already past noon, and he would almost stop answering in another hour. Even though he was empty and hungry, he still gritted his teeth and checked the previous questions again. When the gong sounded, all candidates put down their pens and stood up. Wait until the invigilator soldiers collect all the papers before lining up to leave the examination room. Zhang Ning was looking around outside the Gongyuan. When the 3 children came out one after another, she quickly asked the driver to speed up and leave. Each of the 3 of them felt as if their essence had been sucked by a goblin. They were wilting and weak. Yang Fugui, the youngest, was the most obvious. He couldn't even sit still after getting on the carriage. Zhang Ning couldn't bear to see them like this. When he returned to the villa, he immediately asked his servants to help them bathe, change clothes and wash themselves. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 389. Chapter 389 Yang Fugui fell ill. Yang Fugui actually fell asleep while taking a bath. Fortunately, Yang Dia came over as soon as possible, woke him up quickly, and forced him to eat a large bowl of porridge before letting him go back to bed to rest. Yang Dia came to the hall with red eyes. Auntie, I've already made Fugui eat a bowl of porridge. He looks tired and tired. I don't know if he can survive the next exam. He is really suffering. Zhang Ning felt very uncomfortable when she heard that, but she wanted to comfort her. Everyone is the same. Last year, the 4th village was finally carried out. I was so scared that I cried, but what can I do? I have to hold on. Let them have a good sleep tonight. We will set off again before dawn tomorrow. Don't be too nervous. The most important thing is that we prepare everything for them. She already knew that Yang Santi's first room was a toilet room. After surviving such a difficult environment, what else could she not persevere in? Yang Dia also knew that his younger brother was rushing towards his future, so it was useless no matter how distressed he felt, he could only help prepare things as much as possible. This night, the 3 of them slept in a dark sleep. When it was time to get up, there was no movement. Zhang Ning simply asked his servants to carry them into the carriage, and drove the carriage to the examination room. It wasn't until the carriage stopped that the 3 of them woke up. Zhang Ning told them, I have prepared a new set of things for you, and even some more, as well as dry food. This time there are new pancakes and dry noodles, which can be eaten after being brewed with water. They are better than dry chewing for you, it's better. I hope I have better luck this time and don't get the toilet number again. Yang Santi's face darkened and he was filled with resentment. Mom, don't say those two unlucky words. Zhang Ning quickly shut up. The three of them entered the Gongyuan and began the second exam. This time, Yang Santi was lucky. The place he was chosen was far away from the restrooms and beside the wall of the Gongyuan. When he stuck his head out, he could see half of the sky, and the wind outside was blowing. When we came in, everything in the room was clean and tidy, and everything looked so pleasant. The paper was handed out, and he filled in his personal information carefully as before, making sure that no mistakes were missed before starting to review the questions. Fortunately, this time, the paper was quite satisfactory and did not give them a warning at the beginning. Question 1. How to use astronomical data to calculate the approximate date of the Spring Festival that year based on the sunrise and sunset times of the winter solstice? Please explain. This question is very similar to the math questions in ordinary imperial examinations. It focuses on theory and is not difficult. Yang Santi thought about it carefully and replied, looking at the astronomical data, the sun rises and the day is short during the winter solstice, and the night is long at sunset. During the spring festival, the yang qi gradually grows and the days get longer. After the winter solstice, the sun moves across the sky. The degree gradually increases from south to north, so the spring festival must be after the winter solstice and before the longest day. Astronomical numbers are certain. After the winter solstice, the sun travels across the sky and increases by 1 degree every day. On the vernal equinox, day and night are of equal length. Therefore, counting from the winter solstice to the vernal equinox, the number of days in between is the number of days from the spring festival to the winter solstice. After the vernal equinox, the sun travels across the sky and decreases by 1 degree each day. On the summer solstice, the day is the longest. On the day of the winter solstice, the sunrise and sunset times have been determined. On the day of the vernal equinox, the sun rises and sets. There is also a fixed number. From these two numbers, the date of the spring festival can be calculated. The method of calculation is to first find the number of days from the winter solstice to the spring equinox, and then add it to the winter solstice to get the day of the spring festival. After answering, he looked at his answer carefully to make sure there were no gaps. He immediately smiled with satisfaction and continued to read the second question. The title of the second question is Number Theorist, a branch of mathematics. Among them are prime numbers, greatest common divisors, and least common multiples, which are the basics of numbers. Let me briefly explain its meaning and answer related questions. This question is not difficult, but ordinary people have neither access to nor use of these terms. For some people, they may not understand all the meanings of these terms. If they cannot understand, how can they answer it? Yang Santi was so excited that he wrote, "Prime numbers are prime numbers. Among a number, the only ones that can be divided by 1 and itself are called prime numbers. For example, 2, 3, 5, 7, etc. are all prime numbers. The greatest common divisor is the greatest common factor of a number. To find the greatest common divisor of two numbers, suppose that it is repeated until the remainder is 0, then the final divisor is the greatest common divisor. The least common multiple is the smallest common multiple of a number. To find the least common multiple of two numbers, there is the prime factorization method. Decompose the two numbers into prime factors and multiply the highest powers of each prime factor to get the least common multiple. If you ask find the greatest common divisor of two given positive integers, you can find it by the Euclidean division method. If the question is find the greatest common divisor of two given positive integers and find the least common multiple of two given positive integers, you can find it according to the prime factorization method. This is the basis of number theory, and scholars should study it in depth. The third, fourth, and fifth questions all test similar mathematical concepts. The answers are more subjective, but as long as you understand the meaning, it is not difficult. It is even easier than the first test. But this test has 10 questions, and the next 5 questions it involves calculations, and from easy to difficult, there is also a chicken and rabbit in the same cage problem. He spent one day answering the first 5 questions. After writing, he stopped writing immediately. When the paper was dry, he put the paper away and took out his own dry food. He thought that what his mother-in-law had prepared for him this time was a dry and hard pancake with chopped green onion, but he didn't expect it to be a soft pancake that looked like a steamed bun. He didn't know what it was, but he just thought it tasted great and he could eat it in one go. Almost full. Taking advantage of the cool night breeze, he quickly lay down to sleep. In the next 2 days, all his energy was focused on the next 5 questions, and he did not finish answering them until the paper was about to be handed in. After putting the papers away, he left the examination room as quickly as possible. Zhang Ning saw that he was the first to come out, and he was in good spirits, and his expression became much brighter. Behind him are Yang Erden, Liang Xiaoqian, and finally Yang Fuegui. Others were better, but Yang Fuegui looked a little pale. Zhang Ning immediately focused all his attention on him. When he returned to the villa, he asked the housekeeper to find the doctor to check Yang Fuegui's pulse and prescribe medicine. Yang Dia was so distressed that she burst into tears and ran around. Yang Fuegui was lying on the bed, feeling guilty. "Sister, I'm sorry, I guess I won't be able to take the exam again." Yang Dia couldn't hold back and cried loudly, "If you can't take the exam, you can't take the exam. What's the point of being sorry to my eldest sister? Anyway, you have already won the title of scholar, and you are more powerful than Qian Wen. I will definitely be happy even if I am Izzy. Besides, you are still so young, you still have a chance to take the exam, why are you holding on? Your eldest sister is right." Zhang Ning led the maid into the house carrying some supplements and persuaded, "Fuegui, you are already very powerful. Even if you wait for another 3 years, you will only be 16 years old. If you pass, say it doesn't matter if you are a child prodigy. Please relax and have a good rest. Don't think too much about other things. Also, I haven't let anyone inform the village about your passing as a scholar. I even wrote a letter to the Ping'an County magistrate to cover it up. I'm afraid your father will have another baby if he finds out. The thoughts you shouldn't have are causing trouble for you. And your third uncle and your third aunt, they put their hope in Li Gui, and pointed out that Li Gui will be able to pass the examination and go back to the country in the future. Even if it doesn't work, he will have to take the exam to become a scholar. If they know that you are now a scholar, I'm afraid they will feel bad in their hearts. It will also be uncomfortable. When you grow up in 3 years and want them to know, it's not too late to speak up yourself. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over." Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 390. Chapter 390 The End of Autumn. Mr. Zhou is even a little crazy about her child's future, so it would be better for Mr. Li to suppress her. If she knew that Yang Fuegui had become a scholar, she would probably be greatly stimulated, and she doesn't know what else she could do. "Thank you, Auntie, for taking such trouble for me." Yang Fuegui was very moved, and the corners of his eyes were a little scarlet. Yang Dia also thanked him. Zhang Ning waved his hand, "I have watched you all grow up. It's just a small effort, no need to say thank you. Fuegui, take a good rest, take good care of yourself, and then think carefully about what to do next." After Zhang Ning left, Yang Dia said, "Fuegui, my uncle is right. You are still young, so don't worry." Yang Fuegui nodded and slowly closed his eyes. Seeing Yang Dia was about to leave, he suddenly murmured in a low voice, "Sister, do you think it would be great if the eldest uncle was our biological mother?" Yang Dia paused, feeling unbearably sad. "You have a good rest, I'll leave first." She thought the same way before, until Qian died trying to save her. The next day, before dawn, Zhang sent his two sons to the examination room. When he got home, he became nervous. This was the last exam, and success or failure depended on it. Yang Santi, who entered the examination room, got the paper and saw the questions. His eyes widened instantly. There is no other reason. The topics this time are all real problems. The first question asked candidates about the current situation of the east wall of the city and how to feasibly reduce the financial pressure on the government. The second question asked how to increase the financial revenue of Kuzhu Prefecture. The third question asked about the existence of some special circumstances in Fukushima, through astronomical and calendar analysis. The fourth question analyzes several Earth dragon turns and celestial phenomena in the history of Kuzhu Prefecture. The fifth and sixth questions are all related to the Dragon King Temple. But the question is very obscure, and the Dragon King Temple has not been made public. Most people have no idea what happened in such a place. The question is tricky and realistic. If you answer it in a stupid way, you will definitely fail the exam. Answering it seriously will involve some sensitive issues. How to grasp this degree is what matters most. Each question is on the edge of a knife, and there is no way to be vague. As soon as Yang Santi picked up the pen, he felt hot all over and his forehead was wet. He had so many resources that others did not have, but it was still so difficult for him, let alone others. Less than half a day after the exam started, a cry came from the distance. He was surprised at first, but then he sighed and quickly lowered his head and continued to do the questions. It only took him 1 day to complete 2 questions. For the first time, he stayed up late at night to answer them. During this period, people were carried out one after another, and some people were carried away from his room. Thinking of Yang Sizhuang, his face became paler and he quickly drank 2 sips of mint water to wake up. The 3-day exam passed by in a blink of an eye, and all the candidates who passed the exam felt like they had experienced a catastrophe. They started crying when they saw their relatives, and burst into tears without any image. Zhang Ning looked more and more worried, and when he saw Yang Erden, he hurried forward to greet him. "How are you? Are you feeling uncomfortable?" Yang Erden smiled reassuringly and took a step back. "Mom, I smell very bad now. Don't come close to me. I'm fine. Where's the triathlon?" As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Santi also came out. His expression was a little worse than that of Yang Erden, but that didn't matter. Zhang Ning breathed a sigh of relief and quickly led them home. On the way, Yang Santi looked at Yang Erden. "Second brother, what do you think of the 3rd exam?" Yang Erden grinned. "I think it's okay. The previous test was too weak and impractical. This test asked about all the things I have been exposed to. One is the structure of the houses in the north of the city wall in the east, and the Dragon King Temple. Design, and Miao Village, these are all admitted. Fortunately, Anyang is always by my side. Mr. G doesn't avoid me when talking about those political affairs, so I know more or less. And Uncle Liang, he has said all this. I just need to add some of my own opinions when answering the questions. It's not difficult. What about you?" Yang Santi smiled bitterly and sighed. "I think those unrealistic questions are more suitable for me. This test is too pragmatic, and I don't know if my answers are correct." Zhang Ning quickly comforted. "No matter what, how about it, forget it after the exam, you go back and have a good rest, don't think too much about anything else." Yang Santi nodded obediently and asked, "Auntie, if we pass the autumn period, we will go to the capital to attend the spring period. I know that brother Nuashan is waiting for the results of this autumn period. If we pass the exam, he will go with us." Zhang Ning paused, looked at the scenery outside, and said thoughtfully, "It depends on the situation. If any of you pass the exam, I will go to the capital with you. She may not have been there for a long time. If she doesn't leave now, She won't be able to leave even if she wants to in a few years. Yang Santi was overjoyed. Great. Zhang Ning joked, do you think you are confident? He Yang Santi giggled twice, but he was not modest at all. Zhang Ning then thought about it. He had already become a disciple of Mrs. Ming San. If he couldn't even get through Chiwei, he might not have the shame to go out to meet people in the future. Since the child is confident, she should also prepare for travel as early as possible. Back at Zhuangzi, Zhang Ning asked his servants to help the two of them wash up, and secretly brought Su Yan over. It seems that there will be a happy event in our family in all likelihood. Sun Yan's eyes lit up and his stomach tightened with excitement. Auntie, you mean? Zhang Ning shook his head and said meaningfully, it's just possible. Don't announce it to the outside world until the results come out. I just ask you, how many noodles have been made with the jade stones that Santi brought back? Sun Yan hurriedly asked his personal maid Yu Huan to fetch the account books. Anyang, look at it. My daughter-in-law is very heavy during this period and doesn't sit for a long time. Fortunately, a few Zheniangs trained in the workshop can work, and Dia helps. So far, she has only made 85 sets of noodles, 5 of which 10 sets of gold inlaid jade heads and faces, with patterns such as plum, orchid, bamboo, chrysanthemum, peony, rose, lily, rose, peony, osmanthus, etc. I made more than 30 sets just for flowers and plants, and the rest were butterflies, cicadas, dragonflies, birds, orioles, peacocks, phoenixes, and other insects and birds. The daughter-in-law knew that phoenix should not be used randomly, so she only made one set. She chose the most beautiful jade and asked Zheniang, the best craftsman, to do it. She also inlaid pearls. If she didn't use it on weekdays, she could keep it as a treasure at the bottom of the box. If it was a gift, the nobles in the palace are also very capable. The other 30 sets are made of pure jade with various patterns. My daughter-in-law thought the December flowers were very beautiful, so she ordered someone to carve a set of December flower hostas. I will show them to you later. Zhang Ning looked at the names of the jewelry on the books and admired Sun Yan. Sure enough, leave professional matters to professionals. The presentation you made must be excellent. Don't worry, Mom, if you really want to go to Beijing, how many sets can you pack? I'll take the head and face away. By the way, you can help me estimate the price of these things. How much money are these things worth? She brought these things to Beijing for the sake of being acquainted with the world, and she had to have a scale in her heart. Sun Yan covered her mouth and said with a smile, Mom, if you want to ask me this, just tell me straight away. Zheniang is from our family. According to what Santi said, he didn't spend much silver to buy these jade stones. A set of gold inlaid the cost of yutu noodles is estimated to be only 100 or 200 taels, but in my daughter-in-law's shop, a set can sell for more than 500 taels, and the supply exceeds demand. Nowadays, my daughter-in-law only puts 5 sets in the shop a month, and no more. Moreover, my daughter-in-law asked the shopkeeper of Zhenbao Pavilion. If you send such a set to Zhenbao Pavilion in Beijing, you can't buy it without 1,000 taels. If you give it away, you will definitely get it.